In this video, you're going to create an app called Find the Gold. So in this app, you're going to use the canvas, sprites, and accelerometer features in App Inventor. And in part 2, you're going to customize your app. So part 1. So today you're going to make a game app that moves through a maze when you tilt your device. So first off, go ahead and download the Activity7 AIA template file by clicking on the link. And then on the next screen, you want to download the file by clicking on the down arrow icon. Once you've done that, go into App Inventor, click on My Projects, and import Project AIA file from my computer. And once you've done that, you'll have a template. You'll have a workspace from the template that kind of looks like this, with a number of already included components and media files. So today you're going to work with Canvas, which is a two-dimensional touch-sensitive rectangular panel that sprites can move on. And you can draw on it. But that's for another app. Image sprite and ball components can be placed on the canvas and controlled through touches and drags. A ball is a round sprite. A ball and image sprite can interact with other sprites, the edge of the canvas, and move according to its property values. Both image sprite and ball have similar properties. The differences being, you can change the picture of an image sprite to anything you want, and a ball is just a ball, and the property that you can change that's different from image sprite is the radius property, meaning that you can make the ball bigger or smaller. Now the canvas works via the Cartesian plane and the Cartesian coordinate system. Now note, the origin is on the top left-hand corner. So depending on your orientation of your device, again, it's always going to be the top left-hand corner. And also to note, X increases to the right, but Y increases moving down. So that's a little bit different. Note, if you change the orientation of your device, X may be greater or Y may be less. The X and Y coordinates determine where you are on the canvas. Now, note, different devices have different screen resolutions, i.e. the number of pixels, so therefore the X and Y values on one screen may be different than another. So for example, if you have a high resolution screen, you'll have more X and Y points, and a low resolution screen you'll have less. So in other words, on a 4K screen, you'd have 4,000 pixels, and if you had a 2K screen, it would be a little less than 2,000 pixels. Alright, so in the designer, you can only specify X and Y by pixels. In blocks, you can also use canvas.width and canvas.height to set the X and Y by percentage. Now, the accelerometer measures the tilt of the device in the X, Y, and Z directions. And you're going to move the ball by updating the X and Y coordinates by adding the XSL and YSL. So, if you tilt the device up, you're going to have a positive Y acceleration. If you tilt the device to the left, you're going to have a negative X acceleration. If you tilt the bottom of the device, if you tilt the bottom of the device up, you're going to have a negative Y acceleration. And if you tilt the device to the right and up, you're going to have a positive X acceleration. You might have to study this a little bit to get the hang of it. And note, you subtract the XSL from X and add YSL to Y. Now, think about the steps you need to complete this app. So first off, you're going to start the game, and then the ball's going to move according to the tilt of the tablets, and then think about how you're going to win and what would happen where you would have to return the ball to the original position. Alright, so we opened up the template file. Go ahead and study them and think about what each component's going to do. So, because different devices have different resolutions, we're going to have to adjust the position of our maze walls to take into account the resolutions. So the template includes a procedure called setup maze that places the wall and image sprites and gold sprite on the canvas using percentages of the canvas size. So currently X and Y is 70 pixels from the left bottom corner of the canvas. We're going to set X to 0, Y is 20% of the canvas height, and width is 60% of the canvas height, and X is 30% of the canvas width, and Y is 40% of the canvas height. Height is also 40%. So in other words, we're going to set up all of this by calling this procedure called setup maze when the app first runs. So first off, we're going to add code for the horizontal wall 2 and vertical wall 2. So let's go into our code here as we set up our maze here. And so we want to duplicate code for horizontal wall 2 and vertical wall 2. So first off, let's work with horizontal wall 1, and let's duplicate it and create, I'm just going to duplicate it like this. So let's go ahead and duplicate this, and we're going to change that to horizontal wall 2, horizontal wall 2, horizontal wall 2. Put this up here, and again we're going to duplicate vertical wall 1, vertical wall 2, and vertical wall 3, and we're going to change that to vertical wall 2, vertical wall 2, and vertical wall 2. Okay. Alright, and so let's set that, and let's put that, let's now change the width here to 0.3, and we'll change the height to 0.5. And let's go ahead and change the X here. So we're going to change the X to canvas.height.width 0.3. So we have 0.3, 0.5, and then we'll have 0.7 down here. And for our vertical wall 2, we're going to have our width of 0.7, our height of 0.8, and our height of 0.3. Alright, so now let's put our blocks together here, like that. And then we're going to go to screen, and when the screen is initialized, we're going to call our setup. We're going to call our procedure setup maze here. In other words, when our tablet first starts, now it's going to determine what the size of our canvas screen is, and that way it'll set everything up properly. Now, just to know for yourself, if you want to check the changes that you just made, you can click on Do It inside of App Inventor, and that'll execute the procedure immediately. So let's go ahead and try that. So I'm going to say Do It. And you'll notice now on our tablet, it's now fixed all of our maze because it's kind of looked at the pixels and drawn the walls appropriately. So the way we have it set up, I just want to point this out one more time. The way we have it set up now is that if someone were to run the app in the beginning, when the screen is initialized, it would call that setup. If you want to run the procedure immediately, again, you could just go click on it and say Do It. Alright, so the game sequence, as we looked at a little bit before, is that the game is going to start. The ball is going to move according to the tilt of the tablet. When the ball detects a collision, you can do one of two things. So if the collision is with the gold pot, you're going to win. If the collision is with the black wall, that means you're going to lose. And the ball will go back to the original position. Now, next up, let's go back into App Inventor and let's drag an accelerometer change block. So we're going to drag our accelerometer. We're going to say change. By the way, if you ever wanted to tidy up your workspace, you can kind of right click here. You can click on cleanup blocks. You'll notice that it kind of organizes it for you. Kind of depends on where you want your blocks. So now let's drag out a set of set ball X and set ball Y blocks and snap them into the accelerator. So let's go ahead and find our balls. And we're going to find our balls here, and we're going to set them. And I'm going to do kind of like a little bit of a shortcut here. I'm going to duplicate that. And again, you can change these at any time. I just dragged out any which ones I wanted. Now, from the math drawer, because we're going to, again, move according to our tilt, we're going to drag out a minus block, and then we're going to drag out a plus block. So I'm going to drag out my minus block here, and then I'm going to drag out my plus block here. And so we're going to update the X and Y positions by adding or subtracting from the current values. So depending on where the ball is, so let's get that ball X. So we want our ball dot X here. And then we want our ball dot Y over here. And then we're going to move it according to our accelerometer. So we're going to get an our get accel, and then we're going to get our Y accel. We're going to set that to our ball properties here. So we're going to get it. So now we've got our ball to be moving around. Now let's let's work on the collision part. So let's go back into the ball component and let's drag out a collided with. And now we're going to work with the if block. So let's go into the control and we're going to drag out an if. So the if conditional block lets you code actions depending on whether a condition is true or not. and we're going to use an equals block to test if other is the gold sprite. So we're going to say get. Actually, first we're going to get our logic block here, and we're going to pop that in here, and then we're going to use our get other, and if it is a gold sprite here. So we're trying to detect if it's a gold sprite. So we're going to drag out our gold sprite here. Now, when ball 1 collides with either a wall or the pot of gold, we're going to move it back to the starting position. So let's put this all together here. So we're going to, if there's a collision, we're going to turn off the accelerometer. We're going to disable it. So let's set the accelerometer enabled. I'm going to add that over here. I'm going to set that to false. And then what we want to do is we actually want to move the ball back to where it started from. So we're going to move our ball, and we're going to bring it back to 10-10. Alright, so when the ball touches the wall or gold sprite, we also want to notify them and ask them if they want to play again. So let's go back to the designer, and we'll go to the notifier component, drag that in, and we'll go back to blocks, and let's go into our notifier dialog, and we're going to choose call notifier. So call notifier, we'll drag out the notifier one.choose dialog block, and so we're gonna change the true block and change it to false, and we're gonna add some text here. Alright, so let's add some text here. So we're gonna have a message. So either you win, it's game over, it's play again, or it's quit. Alright, and we're going to put that right underneath here. We're going to attach it underneath the accelerometer. Now, if the user did not choose quit, then they want to play again. So, depending on what they choose, so I'll drag out an after choosing. We're going to give them the opportunity to play again. So we're going to write a condition if the choice is not equal to quit. So let's go back into our conditions. And so we're going to drag out our if here. So if choice, give them a choice here. We're going to get a choice not equal to, that's not equal to, not equal to quit. Then we're going to set the accelerometer enabled to true. So we're going to turn it back on. Alright, and so, if all goes well here, we're going to go test our app a little bit. So, you'll notice you can't actually see me playing, but I'm moving my ball across the screen. Oh. It does take a little bit. Oh, notice I hit the wall. That was not good. And I'm moving my ball around. And I'm moving it around very carefully. Oh, and I lost. And let's see if I can do this. Whoa. And I have to say, the reason why it's hard for me is because I've got my tablet hooked up to a lot of wires here for you, so you can see this. Alright, almost there. Let's see if I can get that gold. Almost. This is harder than Roblox. Okay, let's... No, this way. No. Oh. I may have to... I think I'll let you keep testing this out. Alright. Let me go back to part 2. So part 2, which you'll be working on a little bit later, after you have some fun with that, I want you to add some new features to customize your game. So some ideas for you. You can add some additional walls and barriers to get to the gold. You can also add some scoring ideas, so you can add or subtract depending if the user hits the wall and you know that I'm good at that, or finds the gold and gives them bonus points. You can add some sounds in case there's a collision, or perhaps you can even do a vibration, up to you. So for scoring, I give you some ideas of how scoring could work. You might want to create a label, play with your layout a little bit about where that would be, and then add or subtract points. You could also notify the user if they won or lost, kind of like how we just used the notifier. You could also give them a countdown clock to add some added pressure. To do that, you would use a sensor. And so by the way, the clock.timer event fires every second, and when the time left is 0, the game ends. So again, you could try that out as well. I give you some ideas about how that could work. And you could also increase the difficulty after each level. I suggest adding a label to keep track of the level. When the user reaches the gold, increase the level by 1 and move the ball to a default position. Alright, so again, this is how levels could work. You could also accelerate the game by adding an if-then block and accelerate the ball if the user increases their levels. Alright, so again, I give you some ideas about how that could work. You use multiplication with the get excel and get y cell. And once the user reaches a certain level, you could just end the game. And you would add a notifier for that. Alright, and so that's about it. And I look forward to watching your games.